of the budget include a new math program for grades K through 6. I believe they're in their final stages of researching programs. Server upgrades in both schools, a high school library presentation system, partial funding for a new press box, and a possible hockey merger, which Lieutenant Luthringer is going to talk more about in a minute. So this just talks about, tonight we're going to also go over the undistributed budget and anticipated revenues. And on May 2nd, we have our public hearing on the budget starting at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. And the vote is May 16th from 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So now we'll move on to the undistributed budget and estimated revenues.
I didn't have a question. I just have a comment. I want to thank you for highlighting the fact that even though the budget is decreased in some of these areas, we're maintaining program across all those areas. And that's something that we've all strongly advocated for in the midst of declining enrollment, keeping the opportunities and the programs intact. So thank you for highlighting that.
Sure. So our reductions are primarily due to either decrease in student numbers or decrease in staff numbers. I love this students' enthusiasm. Again, here's our mission statement. So the undistributed budget consists of employee benefits, and the New York State retirement system next year will have a contribution rate of 13.1%. That's up from 11.6% this year. The teachers' retirement system has a slight decrease from 10.29% to 10%. Social Security is still 7.6%, 7.65% of payroll. Also covered in this section are workers' comp, unemployment, disability, health and dental, and accrued liability payments. And I just want to note that our health insurance increase next year is 12%. The undistributed section of our budget covers all our interfund transfers. We supplement our school lunch and breakfast programs to the tune of $30,000 a year. The special aid fund, again, a $30,000 supplement that represents 20% of the cost of students that attend special education programs in the summer. Our debt service fund transfer covers our construction bond payments as well as our bus vans. And a capital fund transfer of $100,000 is for additional HVAC units. So looking at the summary, employee benefits at a cost of over $7 million represents the second highest cost in our budget. But overall, these two sections are only a 1.09% increase or $92,000 increase. Now, moving on to revenues, I do want to point out if anybody wants to see a line-by-line format of the entire revenue budget, they can click on the upper right-hand corner and go to that link. So property taxes, we're almost at our cap, which I'll talk about in a minute. Pilots, we're increasing from 1 pilot this year to 3 pilots next year. And state aid, as of when I left the house this morning, the state had still not reached an agreement on the state budget. So what we've had to do is to base our estimates on the governor's proposal. So overall, the revenues and budget are increasing $441,040, which represents an increase of 1.81%. And here we see it in a pie chart. Our district is a little bit different than most districts in the area. You see that real estate taxes make up the lion's share at 86.5%. In a lot of our neighboring districts, that would be the state aid share. So here's the tax cap calculation. This past year, we went up to 2.52% as our cap. Next year, we're capped at 2.3%. So we're just below that, like 2.29%. So this is a summary of all the 3 budget reviews that we've done. And again, I want to point out that in the upper right-hand corner, you can click there and see a line-by-line detailed version of the budget. So overall, again, the 1.81% increase, bringing our total proposed budget to $24,808,692. And this is how those three sections of the budget are represented in a pie chart. And I already mentioned our public hearing and our annual vote. Any questions?
Trish, do you have any questions? You still with us?
I'm here. Thank you. No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Lynn. Good. I love the great pictures you included, Lynn. Those are so fun. That's nice. The next item on the agenda is our elementary update with Mr. Jim Conway.
Struggling with the mic tonight, sorry. So I have a few items to mention, go back in the past a little bit. Since our last meeting, we had our big Battle of the Books competition and our teams performed well. Our fifth graders actually earned a championship there, but thank you to our coaches who were involved in that and providing that experience for our students and for the support of programs like that. I also want to mention that we had a great conference day on the 17th. We talked about that at our staff meeting today, and I'm very thankful for the work that Mr. Luthringer and Mrs. Coker did to help prepare for that day. In the morning was time very well spent, leading into the afternoon with some great curriculum work that took place in our buildings, but real positive reviews from the elementary staff and the secondary, junior, senior high as well, but went very well. I also want to thank those of you that were able to visit us on the 21st for our first ever attempt at a career fair. It was very productive. Again, the intent was to expose our students to possible opportunities for them, things to dream about in their future, think about as something that they might consider or learn more about as they move through their school careers. Our counselor Zoe Chodak organized that in conjunction with our PTSO, who was extremely supportive of everything and anything that we do. You've heard in our presentations, including the math presentation recently, that we're very deep into a math review. Right? The curriculum review process is something that is ongoing, and we'll be sharing some updates very soon. I will let you know that our two final choices are both very highly rated programs by Ed Reports and other companies that do that type of work. And so I'm very confident with either program based on the work that we've done, that we are going to have a very strong math program to continue the good work that's currently going on at the elementary school. Social Studies Fair tomorrow night between 5 and 6:30 in the cafeteria in the gym. And this year the project's focused. It sounds like we tried to narrow the focus, but these are still very broad topics. Community members, world or U.S. history, social issues, the lake, and New York State history. So the kids tried to narrow down with one of those areas, and they were given lots of possibilities. But we're excited about the fair tomorrow night. I do want to mention that April 19th and 20th is when New York State testing hits for ELA at the grades 3 through 8 level. And then the second and third are the math test dates. And, I mention this every year. Our students do well. They're very well prepared. But I will always say it's one measure of what we do. It's an important one, but it is only one measure, and I don't lose sight on that, or sight of that. Finally, we had our kindergarten parent orientation meeting last week. I want to thank Mr. Luthringer for being there and meeting some of our incoming parents of our kindergarten students. We have our roundup the last week of April, and I'm looking forward to meeting those new kindergarten students, which is shocking, class of 2036. 2036. So, yeah. Any questions? Thank you.
I've got a question.
Oh, I would just, oh, she's still up. I would just like to comment on the career night. I thought it was set up so great. The kids had specific questions to ask, to earn their raffle tickets, et cetera. And I loved I don't know, the different careers that they had. They had a lot of like hands-on things, careers that required different levels of training and college training. It was just really a wonderful, enjoyable event. Well attended, very organized. It was great. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. You mentioned testing and you always put it into such a great context. I appreciate you saying it's, one measure, not the only measure. I'm wondering if you've had conversations with staff, especially and parents around test anxiety at the elementary level.
Yeah. So one of the things that I purposely don't do is spend a lot of time talking about it.
Yeah.
Because when we spend a lot of time talking about it and sending letters home and make sure your kids get this great night of sleep and make sure they have a good breakfast, it's not what we normally do.
Mhm.
So honestly, it gets woven into a calendar of upcoming dates, and we don't spend a lot of other time talking about it because that heightens things for kids. That's my philosophy with it.
Right. Right.
I've never believed in some schools doing, hey, we're going to have a big breakfast. We're going to crush the test.
Mm-hmm.
It sends the wrong message.
Mm-hmm.
We want our kids to do their best on everything every day, whether they're taking the New York State test or they're in the wrestling unit in PE class today that I was watching. We want them to do their best. So we try to downplay some of that to avoid that anxiety. And the same thing with the staff. I think the staff, it's a part of what we do. We're teaching standards within our curriculum all of the time, and they are very well versed in what's on those tests. They love that we don't have to score them, that we send those out. But I think my approach has been the same always. We want our kids to do well, and it is important, but it's a single measure.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have our secondary report with Mr. Frank Acosa, our secondary principal.
Hi, good evening. So several quick updates. Today, the senior class, all 66 of them, received their senior scholarship packet, which is comprised of over 30 local organizations in which our seniors can apply through one application to all of those scholarships that are relevant. It's not the only scholarships that are eligible for our seniors, but it is our local organizations. So that was handed out today. Tomorrow morning, we are sending off 25 students to Spain and France for April 5th through the 13th with 4 staff chaperones to travel internationally. FBLA, April 18th through the 21st, will be competing in Rochester. We have a unique opportunity, April 18th through the 21st, through a spouse here at school whose sibling is affiliated with the Gary Sinise Foundation. And I know Superintendent Luthringer has shared with you the information because it is on this evening's agenda, in which 19 of our students will hopefully be going to New Orleans, Louisiana, to be paired up one-on-one with a World War II vet. All expenses are paid by the Gary Sinise Foundation. And for those who are interested, there's some fairly powerful YouTube messages on the foundation website detailing the program. We were given this opportunity not even 2 weeks ago, and we jumped on it. So we do have 19 students who have signed up with 4 staff chaperones to travel to New Orleans to really genuinely get to learn and live and hear directly from a World War II veteran their experiences, not only from the war, but the trajectory that it put them on for the rest of their life. Remind you that many of these individuals are 95 years old or older, with many of them being 100. So the window to have this type of experience is closing fairly quickly. Our VEX robotics team will be competing April 24th through the 27th in Dallas, Texas. So we have a lot of major field trips occurring in the next 3 weeks. Along with, we're starting with the elementary school, our 6th to 7th grade transition activities begin in the month of April. With April 24th, we go over to the elementary school and meet for the first time our 6th graders. April 25th, the parents and the students come for an evening presentation. And April 27th, the 6th graders come over here and spend a morning touring the building. And those are the first activities of several months worth of transition activities. And the final thing I want to speak about is that on Tuesday, April 25th, you're all invited to a special event here at Lake George High School. Again, that's Tuesday, April 25th, in which we're sponsoring, I believe, for the first ever, a firefighter induction ceremony, introduction ceremony. 6 local fire companies, Lake George, North Queensbury, Bay Ridge, West Glens Falls, Queensbury Central, and Pilot Knob, will be hosting the first ever firefighter induction ceremony, introduction ceremony to the students here at Lake George High School through their phys ed classes. So you might say, well, what is a firefighter induction? I don't know why I'm struggling with that word. Introduction session. Well, the fire companies will set up stations for the students to experience some of the activities at the fire service, including will be suiting up, stair climb, Jim Conway's favorite, a ceiling push and pull, a drag, a forcible entry. Also, there'll be tables set up showing some of the different services that are offered by our fire departments and the county, including EMS, the Marine Division, the Warren County Office of Emergency Services, the Fire, Police, and Ladies Auxiliary. There'll be several large equipment here, including a 6-wheeler, the JAWS, and other equipment. The bottom line is what our fire departments are doing, which are all local and volunteer. To increase their ranks, they need to start younger and recruit younger. So the thought is, in sponsoring this, if we could interest a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grader in volunteering to become a volunteer firefighter, then this is mission accomplished. They're hoping, the 6 fire departments are hoping that this becomes a regional model of what other departments can do in high schools to help recruit to not only their junior firefighter programs, but also their full adult volunteer firefighter programs. So that will be April 25th, and you're more than welcome to get some eyes on it and see our local departments in action here at Lake George High School. It's all day, actually. Yeah. So the competition that will be occurring will occur when the students are scheduled in phys ed class. Half the school doesn't have phys ed, so we're being very creative to get the rest of the school down to the gymnasium on their off periods. So anytime between 8:30 and 2:30, stop by.
I just want to say, speaking from a 20-year local volunteer for EMS, that is the most awesome thing I've heard in a long time. I know that all the stories I exposed my guide rooms to over the years expressed, I mean, just made them more and more interested in those types of activities, volunteer activities in the community. So I think that exposure will benefit everyone. So that's really impressive. The other thing I wanted to say was the students who are going to spend the day with the vets, did they have to apply for that, or were they chosen to go, or did they just want to go, or how did that happen?
Yep. So first, in terms of the fire department, I would be remiss if I didn't thank John Kokoza Hill and Hal Halliday. North Queensbury is Hal and Johnny is Lake George Fire Department. It was their idea. They approached us, and we said, yes, definitely. In terms of the New Orleans trip, we were approached about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. So we had a very quick turnaround. We are capped at 20 students. So through the social studies classes at the high school level, because the program is geared towards high school students, the social studies teachers over the course of 2 days spoke about the program to speak to the students, give them information, and let them decide if it was something that interested them. We then scheduled a meeting. We had 45 students show up to the 2 meetings, expressing initial interest about the program. There was a fairly quick turnaround in terms of speaking to their parents and getting permission slips. All said and done, we had 19 students apply for the 20 slots. So all of the students who have followed through and expressed interest in going are eligible to go. If we run this program in the future, Rosemary, I think it would have a much different type of application process and so on and so forth. But in looking at the students who are going, it's interesting because history is an interest of nearly all of them. It's over the course of 3 days that they'll be in New Orleans. So they will be assigned that vet from the moment they land in New Orleans. And one of the more powerful moments of the entire trip is that they will tour the National World War II Museum with that veteran. So the veteran will be their tour guide, our students' tour guide through that museum. Additionally, New Orleans rolls out the red carpet and has many events honoring these vets who will come from all over the country. In fact, some might even come from out of the country. So our students will be their guests at all of these events, these dinners, these celebrations in which they'll be honored. So all 19 who put in are going. And I spoke today with the other New York school that's going. I spoke with their principal, and they are equally excited. They're sending 20 students as well. So our students will join up with them in Long Island. There'll be a celebration dinner Tuesday evening in Long Island, and then they will fly out Wednesday morning.
The firefighter ceremony. I think we have a couple of students that are volunteer firemen, right?
Yes.
Are they going to participate?
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Okay.
So one comes to mind is Andrew Jekyll. He's with North Queensbury. He's been involved in the planning of this.
I just wanted to thank you. You recently sent out a information about the upcoming dates over the next few months with a very, very busy calendar. So that was really, I actually took that and jotted things down in my calendar, even though they're on the school calendar, to have them laid out like that was really helpful. So thank you for that communication.
Excellent.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Katie.
Everybody else, anybody? The next item is the superintendent's report with Mr. John Luthringer.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to comment. I'm so always continually impressed with the opportunities that our students have, and that's really not by accident. It's really due to the leadership and the work of our principals, our directors, our teachers, really going above and beyond to provide all these great opportunities and trips and experiences. All of this goes into shaping our students as we head to graduation. And so this latest one, I was not surprised, but also surprised because it's really a quite an amazing trip. I'd also just want to take a few minutes. I have a few items here to talk about, but first I want to thank Lynn for all of her efforts creating a very fair, equitable budget that supports our programming. It meets the needs of our students. It continues to support initiatives that we have in place, existing ones, future ones. But it's a great budget, and one that I know has been a tremendous amount of work, something that always we talk about. Budget starts again, as soon as the vote happens. So I want to thank Lynn for all of her efforts for putting forth a very great budget. Thank you. So I also just want to mention here that So in the news, obviously, you have seen, I've sent messages to not only our staff and our community and our teachers, but also you've seen in the news what is occurring regionally in regards to the non-credible threats that are happening to schools. At this point, Lake George Central School District has not had a threat that has come to our attention. However, we still are affected by it. We're affected by it because our staff live regionally. We are neighboring districts to schools that have had these non-credible threats occur. So this has really been going on for really the better part of 2 weeks. We've been navigating this. It's disruptive. It is creating anxiety. It's also creating a sense of concern, not only from our staff and teachers, but from some of our parents and our students. So we take any situation that involves the threat of our students and staff very, very seriously. As the board well knows, we have district and building level safety plans. We also are fortunate enough to have 2 school resource officers that are very visible, and they do a great job here ensuring that our students and staff are safe every single day. And we really take we look at these as sort of opportunities as well. So when these situations arise, of course, we communicate immediately with our staff. We communicate immediately with our community to try to give them as much information as we have. And the information to date is that these are non-credible. These threats are coming from out of the country. They are not traceable. I spoke to Special Investigator Bill Shea from the New York State Police today. I spoke to another investigator last week. The FBI is involved. Governor Hochul has released a statement today condemning these non-credible threats that are occurring, and it's just really unfortunate that these cyber criminals, we'll call them, are taking advantage of really tragic events that are happening in our country. So we are dealing with them as best we can as they come in. So for example, as I said, we look at it as an opportunity. We meet regularly. So today, for example, we had to put information out pertaining to the threats that were happening regionally. Some schools were delayed and some schools had to close because what happens when these threats come in is that they need to be investigated. They need to be taken seriously, and the police departments and the state police have to come in and clear the buildings, and that takes time. So it's significantly disruptive not only for our school districts, but also for our law enforcement. So that being said, we do take the time. We sat as a team, we debrief, we talk, we have our SROs come in, we review each and every one of the plans, and we talk about what if it did come into our attention, what would we do and how would we act? That's the most important piece, is always trying to get better and improve when these situations arise. We also spoke to both staffs today, so I was fortunate that we had both regularly scheduled staff meetings. So we use that as an opportunity to remind our staff about our different procedures in place, or what does a lockout mean, what does a hold in place, shelter in place, so on and so forth. So again, we look at these as opportunities to reflect and grow and improve. And it's just, I feel badly having to have these conversations regularly with our staff and families, but I want to ensure our Board of Education and our school that we are safe, our students are safe, we have strong and healthy procedures, and when there's a resolution on here pertaining to a safety award that we've also received, which I'll talk about momentarily. So we're navigating it, and I just wanted to make sure the board is aware of some of the processes that we're doing when these events do come to our attention. In other matters here, the Board of Regents will be adopting the regulation pertaining to Native American imagery on April 17th. That's what we are hearing. You've also likely seen in the Times-Union, I know I shared that article with the Board of Education in regards to some commentary that came out of the State Education Advisory Group. So as I've shared, there is a group that is working. They've been working since January and fielding questions from school districts, particularly in reference to nicknames. There has been some information that has come out pertaining to a couple regional districts in regards to their nicknames, and it's becoming more and more clear that the nickname Warriors is very likely going to have to be replaced. That being said, we want to be sure that the advisory group advises the state. The State Education Department ultimately has the final say, and we expect, once the Board of Regents approves that on April 17th, that the State Education Department will be issuing guidance to all school districts. We have heard that it will be clear and it will provide clarity in regards to use of different nicknames. So we're continuing to wait for that guidance. Tomorrow is our next session with our student advisory group. We're sticking on schedule. So our session tomorrow, the topic will be really examining the perspective and point of view of different Native American tribes in regards to being depicted as mascots. So we're excited about that. And I had 2 students stop me today and said, "When's our next meeting?" And I said, "Well, tomorrow." So we're very excited about that. As Lynn alluded to in our budget here, we have a really unique athletics opportunity that I know I shared briefly with the board in Thursday Themes, I believe a couple weeks ago. So over the last several years, there's been different opportunities for the district to explore that I've been kind of brought up in the history on, and one of them pertains to ice hockey. And over the course of time, different parents have expressed interest in the district exploring that. And for whatever reason, as we navigate declining enrollment, those decisions, we have not reached a point where we're looking at that type of program. What's different this year is that there is an opportunity with another district locally. So, and what's slightly different this year also, not only do we have students coming up through the youth development programs, we have a number of students in 8th, 7th, and 6th grade and even lower that play youth hockey, but there's also a need with a local district. So Queensbury has approached us as well to engage in dialogue pertaining to a possible hockey merger. So we're at the point where we're having discussions. We've had internal discussions in regards to that, talking internally with myself, the athletic director, and Mr. Kokoza on what that could look like for Lake George. We've taken a close look at the numbers. So Mr. Manny has done extensive work working with parents, also youth hockey programs, and other school districts on their enrollment as well. And what's also happening at Queensbury is they're experiencing declining enrollment as well. So their youth numbers are not strong, and they have a real need for us to really look towards the future. What's very interesting about ice hockey, and one of the things that we consider and talk about, is that these students play travel hockey. They are playing predominantly year round. And this is an opportunity, the way I look at it, it's an opportunity for our students and for our district to explore. So at some point after April break, we'll be sitting down with Queensbury and talking conceptually about what it could look like. There's obviously no decisions at this point made, but we are coming to the table to talk about it. And again, what's different maybe from years past is that now there's a partner here. So in the past, there hasn't been that partner. And what's also happening regionally is that more and more and more districts are starting to merge, especially for ice hockey. They're just, you need significant numbers to field the team, and Queensbury is really struggling. So they've approached us as well. So we have an opportunity to explore this program and really look to hopefully provide a new program for our students at really a minimal cost. So a lot of those details will be flushed out, and I'll be sharing those information with the board. And certainly if we do come to an agreement, the board will have to approve that. I believe the date is August 1st, when we have to have the merger resolution to the merger committee in the different in Section 2 association. So more to come on that. Just 2 very, very brief things here. Sun Valley Apartments are starting to grow. It's now we get into the spring. I think we're going to see considerable movement on the apartments there. They're starting to frame, and once they start framing, it'll go up quickly. That being said, next week they are going to be doing some sewer connection. So they are connecting to the town sewer. They have to cut across Bloody Pond Road. So they're actually going to be Sun Valley, not Bloody Pond. They're actually going to cut out a section of the road. They're going to tie into the sewer, then they're going to blacktop over it. So on Monday and possibly part of Tuesday, the entrance closest to 9L and really where the apartments are being built will be closed. There'll be a detour sign, and anybody accessing the school or the street itself will have to go off of Bloody Pond Road. So we were informed of that really yesterday or the day before. They've been great keeping us in the loop. They've reached out to us when these things arise, and they planned that purposely so it would limit the impact on school, knowing that we were on school vacation. So our maintenance team is well aware. We don't anticipate any issues, and they're going to do the work, and we'll be ready to go when we get back here. And speaking of spring break, we do have our spring vacation coming up here, and I wish all of our staff well. I know many are heading out and hopefully to some sunny weather, but when we're all gone, as I've said before, this is an opportunity for our maintenance and building and grounds our crews to really do a lot of work. We have 9 HVAC units as part of a capital outlay project, part of the federal funding that is occurring in the high school. So that's the first in a series of HVAC projects that are coming up pretty quickly. So that's on track. Kevin Parrott, our director of facilities, has done an excellent job planning and coordinating that. And he has a number. We've got a list today of additional maintenance work that's occurring at the elementary school here. Hopefully the snow goes so we can get our fields ready. So when we get back, baseball and our outdoor athletic programs can get going, because I think we're all a little bit tired of looking at the snow piles. So that's all I have for me for my report, and I wish everyone a great spring vacation. Thank you. Any questions?
All right.
The only thing I really want to comment on, John, is like, I'm sorry that you guys have to take so much of your time to communicate what's going on, but I think the communication, in my perspective, has been fantastic. And one of the things that comforts me with my kids going to school here is those two SRO officers. They're trained professionals. They're invested in the community. I'm thankful that they're in the building. Thank you.
Trish? Good, okay. And I agree, Mario, your communications have been really very helpful, very comforting, and thank you for taking that time. And you started out by thanking Lynn, and I echo that, Lynn. I apologize. In trying to get myself organized, I realized as John was saying that was on my mind, but I didn't thank you for all the work that you've put in with the budget. And I know it's a very collaborative process, and a lot of, you weave a lot of information together that is gathered throughout the early part of the school year, well, and ongoing, and put that all together. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. And I appreciate, John, that you take the opportunity with other folks in the district when we have issues like the non-credible threats to keep the staff informed of protocols. It just keeps it top of mind. Unfortunately, it's happening, but you're using it as a growth opportunity. So thank you for that. And I love the opportunity for actually increasing, with declining enrollment, the thought of increasing an opportunity for our students and being creative with these mergers is it's a great thing. So thank you for your work on that. And that's it. Anybody else? Thank you, John. Next up, we have the Audit and Finance Committee report with Mario Pasulo, who is the chair of that committee.
Thanks, Katie. We reviewed the treasurer's report for February. We received $9,000 in New York State lottery money, lottery aid, and about almost $88,000 from BOCES as a refund from their 2022 estimated costs. So I learned that they cannot carry a profit. So whatever they have left over is distributed back to the schools based on what they kicked in. We also, our interest, we earned another $53,000. The Federal Reserve did increase the rate another 0.25%. And so we'll continue to see the interest rate rise. Claim auditors report for February, there was nothing really in there we needed to review. We did review the food service profit and loss statement. It is operating at a loss of $2,300. This is also including any revenue that the general fund subsidized of $3,000 a month, which Lynn spoke about in her presentation, as well as a supply chain grant in the amount of $28,000 and any a la carte sales. The district is trying to increase breakfast participation in the schools, and they have a plan getting more of the employees involved in talking about it. And we had a pretty deep conversation about students that might have a need. And walking away from that conversation, I feel confident that if there's a student out there that has the need and their parents might not be involved in that scenario, that the school has a process where teachers or principals can get involved and take care of those kids. I don't remember how that conversation came up. I'm glad it did, because it was great. We are recommending a budget amendment to increase the appropriations and estimated revenues in recognition of an insurance recovery of about $8,000 for a swing set that was damaged when a tree blew down at the elementary school. This will allow the district to purchase the new swing set without impacting any current budgeted equipment funds. We also received proposals from two accounting firms in response to the request for proposal. We recommend that the board accept the proposal from Raymond. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing that. Thank you. When we went through the numbers, there's a significant savings, and we have been there with them for some time. So this will be for the year ending June 30th, 23 to 2027. We also had proposal from two banks that the district asked for. The committee, we recommend that the board accept the proposal for Adirondack Trust Company. Their proposal has a lot more things that we need at less or no cost than the Glens Falls National. And we've always gone with Glens Falls National because that's what was in town. And we do have to do banking every day with them. So now that there's the Adirondack Trust, we asked them for a proposal as well as Glens Falls National, and theirs was much more beneficial to us to go with the Adirondack Trust one. We also recommend that the board award a bid for the auditorium wireless microphone and mixer upgrades to Ray Supply. It will, the amount's about $46,000. We did place a legal ad for bids. We asked a couple of companies to give us a bid. Ray Supply was the only one that did. We've worked with them before. They do a phenomenal job. They've been around a long time. They have a great reputation. So right now, we're very satisfied with the work that they've done. We also reviewed the BOCES administrative budget for next year, 23-24. There will be a special meeting on the 25th at 8 a.m. just to vote on the budget for BOCES as well as the board candidates for BOCES. The other two things Lynn covered earlier, and that's all we had.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mario, for that really thorough. I always
Thank you.
really appreciate the thoroughness of your report. Next up, we have Policy Committee report with Marion McKenzie, who is the chair of that committee.
Okay, this evening, we have 10 policies moving to second read. Touched on each of those at last month's board meeting. And we have 4 policies moving to first read and 1 policy that was reviewed with no suggested changes. I'll go through the policies that are on for first read. And the first one is 6310, appointment support staff. That came before the policy committee, that was reviewed electronically per our Lake George manual process, and there's just a minor wordsmithing adjustment and recommended to move forward. Same with the next policy, 6450, review. This is theft of services or property, and that was reviewed by our manual review process with minor wordsmithing revision suggestion. And the next one is 5710, transportation program. And there was some minor wordsmithing, and then there was one additional suggested edit from our transportation, Andy, to enhance. So let me just see here. Oh, so the bus route review parameters. The suggestion was to enhance that by adding the parameter of the duration of bus rides in addition to the routes, the number of students, and the number of stops. So that was incorporated. Policy 6217 was also reviewed by our manual review process. This was a policy that we had looked at electronically and then discussed further at our last policy meeting. And we recognized that there was a need for a little bit more examination at the district level, and there was a suggested revision, which is regarding the written notice of separation to be per collective bargaining agreements or regulations instead of what was previously in the policy 30 days prior to a recommendation to the board. So the effort was to make sure that that language was in alignment with collective bargaining agreements. So, and that was I think the only revision to that, in addition to maybe some minor wordsmithing, the last policy here, 3410, is Code of Conduct, and that came to us by way of Erie One BOCES, and it was not a recommended revision update. I think this might be the first time they did this that I'm aware of, but they said that this policy hadn't been reviewed by them in several years, and so they just put eyes on it and sent it out for us to take to review. And there were no suggested changes. The policies matched each other, our policy and what they sent us. But it did prompt some good exchange electronically to let us reflect that when the Code of Conduct itself, not the policy, but when the Code of Conduct has its annual review, there were some things that we might want to take a closer look at, that might be some suggested visions in that document. That's my full report. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay. We'll move right on to the school business agenda. The first item is the school business consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through K. In summary, item A is a motion to approve the minutes from the March 14th meeting. Item B is a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Item C is a motion to approve the claims auditor's report. Item D is a motion to establish the reorganization meeting for Wednesday, July 6, 2023 at 8 a.m. Item E is a motion to appoint Courtney Rakiki as the permanent chairperson of the annual meeting and the following inspectors to the roster of the Board of Registration for the annual meeting as presented. Item F is a motion pertaining to the work of the policy committee going through the customary first and second reads as presented. Item G is a motion to authorize the administration to take action to submit an application to Section 2 of NISFA for the express purpose of combining or merger of students from the Lake George Central School District and Warrensburg Central School District to form a singular wrestling team for the 2023-2024 wrestling season. Item H is a motion, this was what Mario was speaking about in audit and finance pertaining to the appropriations and operations of plant equipment in the amount of $7,955. Item I is a motion to accept the proposal from Raymond Preuser, CPA, for independent external auditing services for a 4-year agreement. Item J is a motion to accept the proposal from Adirondack Trust Company for banking services from July 1st, 2023 through 2026. And item K is a motion to award the bid to Ray Supply for auditorium wireless microphones as presented.
Do I have a motion? Do we have any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And the next section is, hang on, let me make sure I'm, action to accept the Utica National Safety Excellence Award.
Yes, before I read the recommendation, I just want to take a second here to provide some context to this award. So this award is this is really something to be proud of. This is not something to overlook. There's significant amount of work that goes into our district in regards to safety. So I just want to read a little bit here of what this indicates here. So Lake George Central School District is one of at least 165 school districts and BOCES in New York State to receive the Utica National Insurance Group's School Safety Excellence Award for 2023 at the Titanium with Honors level. This honor is presented annually and recognizes the school district's safety efforts as they work to help keep students, staff, and visitors safe. So in part of what goes into this, there's tremendous amount of work, and titanium is the highest level that you can get. There's platinum, titanium, platinum, and gold. And really, it's schools can earn distinction by meeting specific criteria to enhance the overall safety. So our safety program as a whole is evaluated and really looked at through the lens from Utica National Insurance. And I'm really pleased to share this excellence award with the board and really for our district as well, because there's a tremendous amount of effort from a number of hands that go into receiving some a recognition like this. So maybe we can just give a quick round of applause to our principals. So as recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby accepts a check from Utica National Insurance Group in the amount of $500 as an award for the 2023 School Safety Excellence Program Titanium level.
Do we have a motion? Do we have any questions, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And the next item is the action to approve field trip for New Orleans, Louisiana, which Mr. Kokoza talked to us about earlier, and John Luther, Mr. Luther.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the field trip request to the Gary Sinise Soaring Valor School Program for World War II veterans and student connections in New Orleans, Louisiana, from April 18th, 2023 through April 21st, 2023.
Do you have any questions, any discussion? I'm really excited about this. This is a great opportunity, so I'm excited that we get to vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. And the next item is the action to approve the proposed 2023-2024 school budget.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the proposed budget for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
We have a motion. Second. Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And the next item is action to approve the property tax report card.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the property tax report card for the 2023-2024 school year.
Motion.
Second?
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Next, we have the faculty staff recognitions, and we have the faculty staff recognition consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District, for the purposes of retirement, hereby accepts the resignation of Vicki Green, math teacher, effective June 30th, 2023, Marianne Callahan, teaching assistant, effective June 30th, 2023, Kathy O'Brien, teaching assistant, effective June 30th, 2023, David Powers, bus driver, effective June 30th, 2023, and Lynn Forjone, account clerk, effective July 7th, 2023. We wish to offer our many thanks to these retirees.
We have any questions, discussion? Well, I echo that. Thank you for their service. I think they have almost 100 years of collective, when you add up all their years of service. So thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item we have is faculty staff consent agenda. Yes, is that right?
Yep.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent agenda items A through E. To summary, item A is a motion to appoint Kimberly Sickard to the long-term substitute art teacher position effective April 17th through June 23rd. Item B is a motion to appoint Kathleen Price as a per diem school psychologist effective May 1st through September 1st as presented. Item C is a motion to appoint Lauren Hall to the provisional position of account clerk in the competitive class of the civil service effective May 1st, 2023. Item D is a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the school district and the Lake George Education Association. Item E is a motion to amend the 2022-2023 substitute list of employees not hired through BOCES.
So moved.
Any questions? Any discussion? Guess we have a welcome and a welcome back to some folks, right? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is the school business official, Bonnie Hart.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby appoints Bonnie Hart as school business official in the school business administrator tenure area for a four-year probationary term commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2027. The rest as presented.
So moved.
Any question, discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And welcome to the team in a new capacity. The next item is the Memorandum of Understanding Lake George Transportation Association.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby accepts the memorandum of understanding between the Lake George Board of Education and the Lake George CSE Transportation Unit.
So moved.
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is board discussion and comments. Anybody have anything? Trish, do you have?
I'd
anything
love
you
to
wanna
talk a
report on?
little bit about the conference we just attended. Do you want me to start?
You're on.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I just want to tell everybody that the National School Board Association Conference was an excellent opportunity. Personally, and folks here have heard me say this before, I think in a well-resourced district like ours with such a commitment that our professionals have, that not only do we need to do well for ourselves and our district, but we want to be exemplary. We want to set the example for others. And I was so proud to be able to represent Lake George and the school board in a way that allowed us to share things that have been successful for us. Our session, based on the attendance of the folks, which was impressive at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday, how many folks came out. Folks are looking for ways to improve their collaboration on school boards, and we had some very specific tools to present things that have worked for us. And very specifically, people were interested in the dignity model that we presented, and then how we go about setting our communication protocols. So that was very gratifying and affirming to be in that space to do that. And presenting certainly doesn't mean that we have it all figured out. Another reason that we go to conferences is to keep our commitment to continual growth and improvement. And I attended a session with Marianne called Be More, Know More, Do More. And it really was all about board development. And one of one of the take-home points there was on a board working at a high level can influence student outcomes, and really drawing that line there. And John Luthringer, I think you'll also appreciate one of the messages that was in that session, which was boards should keep their nose in everything and their fingers out. So allowing the administrative team and the school professionals to do their job, but to make sure that we know more so we can be the best governance team possible. And one other session I wanted to mention, because it was probably the highest attendance level of any of the sessions I was at, was about legal issues around LGBTQ students in athletics. And there were two just very well-spoken lawyers there who made the point that the reason that the session was there and that it was well attended was because it's needed. These are issues that are emerging and are growing throughout the country, and people have questions, and we haven't quite figured it all out yet. So we are seeking more conversation, more guidance, more thoughtfulness around that. And that's all I've got right now.
Thank you, Tricia.
So I just want to make a few comments about the conference also, because it was a really big experience, you know, to even like have the courage to think that we could stand up and present something of value to others, but anyway, we did it, and there was a lot of positive feedback that came our way. People were interested to know about these tools, the Dignity model, our communication protocols, shared decision making, and we talked about policy, and so it felt really good. But the other thing that was interesting is that through all the other sessions that we attended different things, it did seem like different things wove together and kind of like pointed us forward. And so like in the session that Tricia and I attended together, which was the boardmanship session on be, know, and do more to reach our full governing potential, the gentleman, he talked about like 4 phases of development of a board. The first one, which would be unsatisfactory, doing harm, right? That would be unsatisfactory. And then doing no harm would be like basic okayness. And, but then to be doing good would be a level of proficiency. But then to become distinguished, you'd be doing good with the likelihood that you would continue doing good. And, he had a lot of, just this continuum of, what's next to be, fully developed and high functioning as we can be. And he had a lot of reading materials that he referenced. And I wasn't familiar with them. Trish had read some of them before, but I thought, oh, maybe sometime we can talk about having a little board book club or something, because that might be a way to incentivize anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting. But I also wanted to mention, there happened to be a session on the power of student voice, welcoming students to the dais, which was cool. And I went to that, and it was really powerful. It was run completely by students who sit on school boards, and they were really intense. Their goal and dream is for students to sit on every school board in the country. But I did ask them what motivated them to want to do this. And they came from very large schools. And there was even an 8th grader in the audience who sits on his local school board in a K-8 district. And they invited him up, and the one kid said, I'd like to introduce my colleague, this 8th grader. And anyway, they were unbelievable. But when I asked them, what put them, what made them interested in it, one thing that was really clear was that they had a well-established culture, like they had been doing it a long time. And there was a really well-established culture of like civic engagement and advocacy. And they they just seemed to, I think because of that, they had this big picture. They had the big picture. Like I'm still working on the big picture. And they were like, yeah, I can represent my peers, and to the board, I can help the board understand my peers. And not only that, but we know how to use like social digital platforms, and we can help you get your messages. I mean, they were powerful. And yeah, they even said, they talked about their time commitment, the drain, like they do school. And they said, that obviously, they do attend I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but one young man actually sat on the school's policy committee. And he just kind of blew me away, but he's really into policy. And he said, my parents really wanted me to become a doctor. And he said, but I'm going to study public policy because I can see how policy really can impact so many people. And but anyway, they said that the schools worked with them a lot to say, well, okay, if you have a big exam, we're not going to say you have to be at this particular, you can miss sometimes, but they supported them through in other ways, like through study halls and different things where you could even have like a board class or study hall, independent study, where they can do all like their board reading and such. But anyway, they talked about their, what's the role, why is it of value, and how did they do it? And so they were very organized, and it was impressive, and they had a lot of reference materials as well. Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. There's a lot more. I'll stop.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Anybody else? So first I want to thank everybody for your support, to give us this opportunity to share what Trish talked about with boards from all over the country, and for the opportunity for us to grow individually and bring things back so that we can grow as a board. And while Trish and Mary Ann talked about one of the classes that they took together, for the most part, we went through this little book and we mapped things out and tried to go to different things so we could bring more things back. And one of the ones that I went to was called That is the Question, Developing Effective Questioning Techniques for Board Members. And I just wanted to bring back just a couple little bullet points from that. One of them is the, let me get my little pages here, the mindset of questioning. One of the things that I love about the board and the culture of the board and the culture that John has helped grow is that questions are welcomed. They're not seen as adversarial. They're seen as a welcome opportunity. And one of the things they talked about was the mindset of questioning. And I feel like it's something, I was reassured to hear this, and I feel like it's something that we are, that we have grown, and it's using that learning mindset. So when we're asking questions, we're doing it because we're in an open-minded, curious, accepting, solution-focused, with an attempt to understand. And so that was one of the pieces that I really enjoyed hearing about. And having that learning mindset with questions opens the channels for understanding. One of the pieces that she spoke about was, for me, I was like, well, isn't that baseline? Isn't that basic? But I shouldn't take it for granted, because our board is doing this, and I was really happy to think about it. We all come to board meetings having read the agendas and read through them, prepared on a monthly basis. And that is something she said, in order to reach a higher level of questioning, you need to be coming to the board already prepared, because in those initial stages of reading, you're remembering, you're understanding, and you're in the critical thinking pieces. So questions won't be coming from that level because you've already read that information. And if you don't understand something that you've read, then you can dive a little deeper and get to a higher level of, analysis, evaluating, and being creative. And so congratulations on coming to the boards prepared. Apparently that's not always the baseline. And so thank you for doing that. the last piece that I want to talk about that was a takeaway for me was with the questions being at the higher level, it's the generative conversations that come when you have that understanding and we're asking the higher level questions. And so you get into critical thinking and generative thinking, and that leads to bringing in many perspectives and really bringing in those collaborative processes that we shared, that we, I think, all promote in the district, that the collaboration. And a little last quote, the goal of generative questions and discussions is to think more broadly about ideas. And a recent example that I thought of is this piece that you brought up with student voice. A few months ago in October, Trish had attended something where we talked about, does it make sense for us to have a student on our board? And so that's led to a lot of discussions and research and understanding. We're still in that generative thinking about that piece. So thank you, fellow board members, for your questions that you ask every month, and they are welcome, and it helps us grow and be better. So that was one of many sessions that I went to. So thanks again for the opportunity.
I have a question, but I'll say it again. I'm very proud of the three of you. That was great. Thank you for representing the district and bringing so much back. So
I agree, and thank you very much for your leadership on our board. We appreciate it. And thanks for being willing to go to the national conference and learn for us and bring it back to us. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is our second public comment period. Do we have any else? Okay. So we will move to the next item, which is a proposed executive session. So the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District proposes entering into an executive session to discuss personnel matters of particular persons in the district. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor, or any discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And we do not expect to come out of executive session. Come back into, we do expect to leave executive session at some point. But when we do not expect to come back out into open meeting. So it's perpetual.